How's it going, everyone? This is your Vice President, Scott Evans, and this is our first episode of Monster Quest. Hope you enjoy. Our good buddy Gunther came into town. He's got a beautiful 18-foot 10 Stratus bass boat, and we accomplished a lot of firsts on this trip. It was our first time on a bass boat, our first time catching smallmouth on Lake Michigan, and our two personal best smallmouth. So the morning started out pretty slow. We got up at about 4:45 and thought we'd have enough time to get to the lake before the sun came up. But as you can see, clearly we were a little bit behind schedule. But we got to our first spot. And as a lot of you guys know that have been following us for a while, I don't claim to be a professional fisherman. And there is no doubt that Gunther knows a lot more about bass fishing than I do. So we started out the morning. He knew exactly what to do, knew exactly where to go. And I think we caught about 10 smallmouth in the morning, and I don't think a single one of them was over 12 inches. So I was happy that we were catching fish. Gunther wasn't too happy that we weren't catching the 5-pounders that we were after. And I'd say it was probably after Gunther's 8th fish that I accepted that I wasn't going to win the numbers game. And usually when I'm not catching the most fish, I catch 1 or 2, but they're usually the biggest. So I threw my Old Faithful Pike Dreamer spinnerbait. I don't even know how many times I cast it. We probably cast it 10,000 times. I mean, my arm is still sore from throwing that heavy spinner on the bait casting rod. And Gunther catches like 2 or 3 more fish, and I'm starting to get discouraged. You know, thinking that I'm not gonna catch anything. But eventually, I got the skunk out of the bag. You guys have been following us for a while. You'll know we've been after a trophy pike for about 2 months now. Seen a couple quite a few times, and it definitely is true that a fish doesn't get to trophy size by being dumb. So we got discouraged on our last couple of spots, and somehow in the back of my head I was being optimistic and thought that possibly on Lake Michigan I'd be able to get into a 40. So I put down the bait caster for a little while and started throwing a Cinco worm, Texas rigged, and hook into my first fish of the day, a little hammer handle, like 14-inch pike that got off right at the side of the boat. Honestly, if they're not worth keeping, they're a pretty good way to release them. So I was feeling a little more confident now that, at least I wasn't skunked. And then Gunther proceeds to catch a few more fish. We're both starting to kind of think that maybe we're doing something wrong, maybe we're not in the right spot, whatever it may be. But our luck turned around. We tried quite a few more spots, burned a lot of gas, and just saw some absolutely incredible scenery. If you guys haven't been to the Upper Peninsula, you guys need to set a trip. Honestly, the scenery and the landscape is unbeatable to anywhere else in the Midwest, in my opinion. So we motor another like 5 or 6 miles to this spot, and we thought this is where the boogeyman was gonna be living. We're fishing, right at the base of probably 150 foot sheer cliff. Beautiful broken up rocks down the bottom. Just textbook monster smallmouth country. And we didn't catch a single fish in this spot. So now Gunther's getting even a little more frustrated, and I'm starting to think that maybe we're not going to get the trophy smallmouth we were after. But we stayed persistent. We stayed relatively positive, and just kept having a great time, and motored over to our last spot, and that was when our luck really turned around. So we pull up to the last spot we tried in the day. The forecast said it was going to get pretty windy at about 3 o'clock, so we definitely didn't want to get stuck out in the middle in a bass boat. When we get to this spot, Gunther gets back up on the front of the boat, looks down, and sees 3 or 4 at least 5-pound smallmouth just sit, right where we stopped. So we're like, okay, we are in the right spot. We threw everything we had in that boat, dropped it right on their forehead, and we could not get them to bite anything. So eventually I go back to my most confident bait, the bait that I've got the most faith in. Just a regular Cinco worm, hooked wacky style right in the center. Grew up bass fishing on that, and I don't think it's really, you have to have the best bait. You don't have to have, all the baits. It's really what you have the most confidence in. And what I had the most confidence in was in the Cinco worm, and it definitely paid off for me. So we're looking at the fish finder, just picking out, smallmouthy features down the bottom, and going back and forth from him. We probably saw 100 smallmouth over 3 pounds. Just, I mean, crystal clear water, like 10 to 15 feet. You can see straight down and see these monsters just laying down there. And this was when we really got frustrated. I mean, when you see the trophies that you're after right at your feet and you can't get them, it's hard to stay 100% optimistic. So Gunther goes into his bag of tricks to try the only options we had left. And in my opinion, it was just a matter of time before we were going to catch a big one. And the thing is, we were running out of time. We only had about an hour before the wind was going to get bad, and it was going to be a much more dicey situation to be able to make it safely back to the boat ramp. Like I said earlier, this is my first ride in a bass boat. And when you're going 60 miles an hour across the Great Lake in like 1.5, 2 foot waves, it's fun, but it's physically draining. There's no doubt about that.
20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name.
Finally, our patience and our persistence pays off, and Gunther hooks into a nice, probably 2.5, 3 pound smallmouth, and we're finally getting more positive, finally getting excited, and, you know, thinking it's like, all right, well, at least we got one fish that's worthy of taking a picture. And then shortly after that, everything just got incredible.
He's not your everyday on the block. He knows how to work with what he's got, making his way to the top.
So Gunther's fighting this fish, and we look down and we see behind him that there's one following up, probably twice as big. So I threw Gunther's lucky bait right at him, and the fish wanted nothing to do with it. But you know, we were still happy that we at least got one. You know, got one keeper to make the trip a little bit worth it. And shortly after we released that one, Gunther hooks into a hog of a fish. And right away, I'm looking at him. He's getting so excited. He thinks he's going to the taxidermist with, you know, world record smallmouth, and gets it up to the side of the boat, and turns out it's a sheep's head. So not only did we catch bass and have a northern on, but we got a third species, and pretty ugly one at that. But it was probably 7-8 pounder, and hit a crankbait, and man, those things can fight. There is no doubt about that.
10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name.
After we landed the sheep's head, we both started to get a little more excited. Not only was, you know, that our biggest fish of the day, but that was both of our first sheephead on Lake Michigan. And that's when the wacky worm came back out. I mean, I was just casting out, letting it sink straight to the bottom, and honestly not even reeling it, just twitching it a few times and letting the boat straighten it out and twitching it a few times, and it was starting to get a little rough, and we were both kind of thinking, you know, probably a good time, you know, start thinking about heading back. And that was when our luck took a complete 180, and after that, everything was incredible. We hooked into our first big smallmouth on my $40 Murica rod. For a spinning rod, you know, for a well-priced rod, short of an ugly stick, I highly recommend it. Side note, Gunther and I were talking the night before, and his bass fishing partner downstate was borrowing his official bass net. So he asked if I could bring a net, and long story short, we forgot a net. It was probably a 5-minute fight on the fish, and then probably 5 minutes of trying to get him to the boat. But luckily Gunther knew what he was doing, was, you know, able to get at that time, my first and my biggest ever smallmouth on Lake Michigan. So we finally get this beauty into the boat. Gunther guessed at that time 4 pounds. Turns out he was spot on. I mean, we weighed it, and it was 4 pounds to the T. He was pretty strong, as you can see. I dropped him a couple times. You're going to see a pretty funny blooper toward the end here. But when you catch a personal best, you for sure got to take some time to take a picture. Pictures last a lot longer than memories, and nobody believes it if you don't have a picture to show of it. So here it is.
You see, I study art. The greats weren't great because at birth they could paint. The greats were great because they paint a lot. will not be a statistic. Just let me be. No child left behind.
It probably wasn't 20 minutes after the first fish that I cast the Cinco back out there, started doing the same thing, just barely twitching it across the bottom, and got one heck of a hit. Same scenario, pretty decent fight, no net, so I got there, had to land it for me, and did an incredible job. The whole time I'm thinking, you know, all right, don't drop my fish, don't drop my fish. This is bigger than the last one. And right away, he didn't think it was as big until he saw it, but then we both were just, I mean, saying we were excited would for sure be an understatement. Not only did we have 2 keepers, this was our third. You know, our goal was to get 4 over 4 pounds to take an incredible picture, but we didn't quite get there, but we got a lot closer to getting skunked.
Slow motion as time slips through my knuckles, nothing beautiful about it. No light at the tunnel, but the people that put their passion before them being comfortable. Raw, unmedicated heart, no substitute. Banging on tabletops, no substitute. I'm feeling better than ever, man, what is up with you? Scraping my knuckles and battling with some drug abuse. I lost another friend, got another call from a sister, and I speak.
So after a very tense moment, we finally get this beast into the boat. Gunther guesses 5. He was pretty close. It turned out to be 4.8 on a certified scale. But I was on cloud 9 at this point, guys. I was so excited. Not only did I only catch 2 fish, but they were my 2 biggest smallmouth ever in a lake that I've never been on before. It was only Gunther's like 3rd time out there in probably like 4 or 5 years. So all in all, you know, we were chalking it up to a success at this point.
Lights go to black, band leaves the stage. We wanted an encore, but there's no encore today, cause the moment is now, can't get it back from the grave. Welcome to the heist.
But it wouldn't be a trip without going swimming. When you put 9 hours in on the water and it's almost 100 degrees in the sun, cooling off in good old Lake Michigan, I mean, there's nothing better.
Now, this is my job, I will not quit it. Pulled me out the depths when I thought that I was finished. Yeah, I question if I could go the distance. That's just the work, regardless of who's listening. Listen. See, I was meant to be a warrior, fight something amongst me, leave here victorious, clashing with kids, or a venue performing. If I'd done it for the money, I'd have been a fucking lawyer.
No, we know a lot of our haters are gonna hate on this clip, but I just had to share it with you because it could have been just a sleep deprivation. It could have been the fact that I definitely underestimated how powerful these smallmouth were. Probably dropped each one of them 4 or 5 times. Dropped the big one, and he went right back into the motor well. And right away, Gunther's like, "Oh, he's gone." I saw that he flopped in there, so like, "Oh no, he wasn't gone." And even if he was, I would have made a pretty heroic effort to dive into the water and hopefully be able to catch him. But all in all, we got some incredible photos and got them all released safely. And honestly, when you're out in such a unique fishery, there's no reason. I mean, regardless of the fishery, there's no reason you need to catch and eat a 4-pound smallmouth. But aside from how incredible you feel when you catch these fish, there's just something unique to the feeling that you get. You keep them, keep them alive in the live well to get an incredible picture, and then just make sure that they're released back into their natural environment healthily. And as just an ethical outdoorsman, that just puts a whole new aspect on it for us. And a lot of our haters, they really dislike us for catching fish, but we can let them go safely. I look at it as, if you're hating on us, you're still talking about us.
Make the money, don't let the money make you. Change the game and let the game change you. I'll forever remain faithful. All my people stay true. I said, make the money, don't let the money make you.
And there was no doubt that we definitely pushed the envelope as far as we could. I mean, there was waves coming over the bow of the boat while we were trying to take the pictures, and going 60 miles an hour across the lake to get back before the wind gets any worse. It was it was pretty nerve-wracking. If we weren't just super excited with the fish that we caught for the day, it probably would have been a little more nerve-wracking, but made it back safe, and all in all, just had a hands-down, I mean, trip of a lifetime, really. Not every day do we get to go travel to the other end of the Upper Peninsula and go and fish on Lake Michigan, so I greatly appreciate you, Gunther, for bringing us out. But until next time, really.
Change the game, don't let the game change you. I'll forever remain faithful, stay true, stay true. And I said, make the money, don't let the money make you. Change the game, don't let the game change you. I'll forever remain faithful. Stay true, stay true, stay true.
The number one thing that you guys need to take value in and just find excitement in is when you get on and off the water safely. And when we were back in the dock and the protection of the bay, it was that's when we kind of got to, you know, sit and think. It's like, wow, we came out here and we conquered. It's a body of water we've never fished before, a huge body of water. I mean, a Great Lake at that. And we came back with 2 absolute monster smallmouth. So with that, this is the end of the video. I want to say I appreciate each and every one of you for watching. You can follow us on any of our other social media platforms and take a quick moment to thank our sponsors. We love you, Pike Dreamers, and we love you, Daddy Mac's Seafood Sauce. Alright guys, until the next episode of Monster Quest, this is your Vice President, Scott Evans. Thank you for watching.